Hi, everyone, and welcome to another enlightening episode of
The Dungeon Crashers.
I'm Guy.
And I'm Sapil. And before we get started, remember to hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that bell so you don't miss any of our excellent D&D content. Today we're doing a build for Donald Carter, who wants a Great Old One Warlock combined with a Aberrant Mind Sorcerer. The Aberrant Mind Sorcerer, along with its counterpart, the Clockwork Sorcerer, are subclasses from Tashas' Cauldron of Everything that are interesting in that to the subclass abilities, they also get additional spells known based on their level. This is pretty powerful because lack of spells known is one of the biggest weaknesses for a sorcerer, and the spells it gives really lean on into the theme of the subclass. Like the Great Old One Warlock, the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer is associated with Eldritch beings from the far realms.
And the two classes overlap a lot, and the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer is in many ways better at what it does than the Warlock, but there are a number of abilities we can get from Warlock that will make this a powerful build. We aren't doing some of the typical Sorlock things like the Coffee Lock, which works by getting the invocation aspect to the moon so that you don't need to sleep, and instead of a long rest, take multiple short rests and convert your Warlock slots into sorcery points. Wizards has made several errata to make this less powerful, but it's still a pretty strong tactic, but requires more investment in Warlock than we want. But the premise is still good. When possible, we want to use our Warlock slots last, and if we have any left when taking short rests, convert them to sorcery points. This build will have a very Lovecraftian feel to it, and I want to play into that with our race and Sorcerer's Origin. Under possible Sorcerer's Origins, one is being implanted with a Mind Flayer tadpole but not completing the transformation. We're going to take this one step farther and use custom Lineage to build a human Mind Flayer hybrid race. Perhaps we were created by a cult devoted to one of the Great Old Ones as a vessel for its power. We were born with a pact of this entity and draw power from it. Maybe we were pursuing the cult's agenda, or maybe the Great Old One simply used the cult to create us for its own amusement and turned us loose on the world to see what would happen. Beings from the far realm have motives beyond mortal comprehension and sometimes act on whims or spread insanity for its own sake. This brings us to alignment, which we don't usually discuss in these builds, but it's probably relevant to this one. Of course, it's still up to you and your DM what works for your campaign. Great Old Ones are more amoral than immoral. Although you certainly could be evil, you are probably some sort of neutral, at least in your mind, being beyond good and evil. If devoted to a cause, you could be lawful neutral, or if serving your own ends or simply the whims of your patron, could be chaotic neutral. Or even true neutral, being indifferent to human desires and motives.
Yeah. Custom Lineage is also from Tashas' Cauldron of Everything. Is an option if you want to play a race not existing as a play race in 5th edition. Half Mind Flayer does exist in 3.5, and we are drawing some inspiration from it. We get a +2 to any one ability score, Darkvision or a skill proficiency, and a feat. We are humanoid and could be a medium or small. We are taking medium as we are basing this on a human, but this could work just as well for gnomes and halflings, so small is an option. Our type is humanoid, and our appearance is up to us. We can look as human-like or not as we want, and in a typical campaign, you will probably want to look mostly human, but could have a trait hinting to your nature. Purplish skin, a large hairless head, or pupilless black eyes. Or, as we are doing, you could look fully like a human Mind Flayer hybrid with all of the above as well as facial tentacles. This probably wouldn't work in most campaigns, but we are having fun here. If you do go for a very non-human look, you might see if your DM will give you additional racial abilities to compensate for the difficulty. For example, if used in our campaign, we might give the facial tentacles that can be used as an unarmed attack doing a d4 bludgeoning damage and could use either strength or dexterity for the attack roll. This seems strong, but is actually pretty minor, being no more effective than a dagger, and except for very low levels, always worse than using a cantrip. So to make it more than fluff, we are also giving the ability to make a bonus action grapple using strength or dex after a hit. Still not often useful, but very cool looking and might occasionally be worth doing. If your DM thinks, probably correctly, that looking like a Mind Flayer is a large drawback, they might give you other small abilities as well.
As there isn't a background for being created by a cult, we're creating our own, getting persuasion and insight as skills. Our natural psionic powers make us good at manipulating others and sensing their motives. We're also going to get deep speech as a bonus language, in addition to common and the extra language you get from custom Lineage. Deep speech is the language spoken by Mind Flayers, aboleths, and other aberrations. We're also gaining Darkvision from custom Lineage and taking the telekinetic feat. This feat gives us a +1 to Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. We want Charisma. It also gives a few abilities. First, you learn the Mage Hand cantrip and can cast it without components and can make it invisible. If you already know the spell, its range increases by 30 feet. Its casting ability is the one we increase with the feat, so the Charisma for us. Secondly, we get the ability to shove a creature we can see within 30 feet. We can't use this to knock someone prone, but can push or pull them 5 feet if they fail a strength save versus a DC of 8 plus Charisma plus Proficiency. Using point buy for abilities, we put 8 on Strength, 14 on Dexterity, 12 on Constitution, 12 on Wisdom, 11 on Intelligence, and 15 on Charisma, which will be 18 after the racial bonus and the bonus from the telekinetic feat. Custom Lineage is unique in that it lets you start with an 18 in an ability score, and this will be very strong for us as many of our spells will have saving throws and we will be using cantrips for most of our attacks.
Yeah. At first level, we'll start off with Warlock, getting 2 skills from their list, taking Intimidation and Perception. We now have all the main social skills, which reflects not only our psionic nature, but also defines us as being primarily about manipulating others. We also get proficiency with simple weapons and light armor, which we would not get from a sorcerer. For weapon, we want a dagger, but probably won't use it much, and we want studded leather. This saves us having to worry about mage armor. Our patron, the Great Old One, grants us Awakened Mind, allowing us to communicate telepathically with a being within 30 feet that knows a language. We would get further telepathic powers later, but this is a good start. We also get Pact Magic, granting us 1 first-level spell slot, 2 cantrips, and 2 first-level spells known. Often in our builds, we go into detail about what the spell does, but in this build, we are going to mostly talk about what the spell generally does and why we want it, and let you read the descriptions for the details. The exception is when we talk about some spells from the Unearthed Arcana that we will describe in more detail. For cantrips, we want Eldritch Blast. It is the best damage cantrip in the game, and we can further improve it with our invocations. We also want Friends. It lasts 1 minute and gives us advantage on all charisma checks made against the creature. With our 18 charisma and proficiency, this should allow us to manipulate most anyone, and depending on the situation and the DM, we may be able to do it telepathically. At the end of the spell, the creature will know we used magic on it and will be angry and act accordingly. So be sure you can get all that you need within that minute. For spells, we want Hex. It deals an extra d6 on all attacks against the hexed creature and gives them disadvantage on ability checks with the ability of our choice. This works with spell attacks as well, so it is fine with Eldritch Blast. It also has a range of 90 feet and does not say the target knows it has been hexed. So if you can hex someone without them knowing, we could give them disadvantage on wisdom or charisma to make them easier to persuade or deceive. We also want Charm Person for situations where we need someone to be friendly for longer than a minute. This lasts for an hour, but as with Friends, after the spell ends, they know we have charmed them. We also want Dissonant Whispers and Tashas Hideous Laughter added to the Warlock list, but we get Dissonant Whispers later from Sorcerer for free.
And at level 2, we take 2nd level Warlock, getting a 2nd spell slot, and 1 more spell known. We will take Tashas Hideous Laughter from our patron spells. If your DM uses Unearthed Arcana, there is the spell Id Insinuation from UA66. It is a very powerful spell. The target must make a wisdom save or be incapacitated, and at the end of each of its turns it takes a d12 damage and makes another save, ending the spell on a success. It doesn't specify whether it remains incapacitated after the first turn, but in our game we say it doesn't. After the first turn it acts normally and just takes damage. The spell is already on the edge of too powerful, but if incapacitated for the duration it'd be broken beyond playable. It lasts for 1 minute depending on concentration. I'm playing the character from our Psyops build in Temple of Elemental Evil, and I'm using this spell. It isn't overpowered in our game, but it is really good. We also gain 2 invocations. Firstly, we want Agonizing Blast, allowing us to add our Charisma modifier to the damage of each beam of our Eldritch Blast. For the second, we want Eldritch Mind, giving us advantage on concentration saves. We use a lot of concentration spells and have poor constitution, so this is essential. Also note on Eldritch Blast, unlike some cantrips, it doesn't really specify what it looks like, only that it is a beam of crackling energy that deals force damage. In our game, we allow players to customize the look of their Eldritch Blast, and for this character, I'd make them look like tentacles of force that lash out of our hands. And at 3rd level, we switch to Sorcerer for the rest of the build. Eldritch Blast, Light Armor, Invocations, and 1 form of telepathy is really all we need from Warlock. Our Sorcerer's origin, as we described before, is Aberrant Mind. From that we get our 2nd form of telepathy, which is telepathic speech, which lets us use a bonus action to form a connection with one creature. Once formed, you can communicate telepathically with this creature, but you must speak in a language the other understands. At a range of up to 1 mile per point of our charisma modifier. Lasts for a number of minutes equal to our sorcerer level, or until we are incapacitated or die or form a connection with another creature. This ability is really poorly thought out and I think needs a house rule. You have a duration with a maximum of 20 minutes at level 20, but a range of potentially 5 miles or more. Barring teleportation, how is the creature going to get 5 miles away in 20 minutes, much less the 1 minute you have at first level? I would suggest dropping the duration and instead say it ends when you are incapacitated, die, form a connection with another creature, or take a long rest. This will actually make it useful. I would probably add that if you can't see the creature, you must know it personally or know its name or maybe have an item it owns. If your DM doesn't make such a house rule, just use the telepathy we get from Warlock in most situations. We also get spellcasting, getting 2 first-level spell slots, 4 cantrips, and 2 spells known. Also from an Errant Mind, we get the cantrip Mind Sliver for free, which is a great cantrip dealing a d6 psychic damage on a failed intelligence save, and causes the subject to subtract a d4 from their next saving throw. This can set you up to help stick a powerful spell on your next turn. For our other 4 cantrips, we want Message for another form of telepathy, Minor Illusion to give people some visions, and Mending and Shape Water for some telekinetic tricks. For spells from Aberrant Mind, we get Arms of Hadar, which is a great tentacle-based attack spell, and Dissonant Whispers, which is from the Bard list and deals psychic damage and causes the subject to use their reaction to flee from us. We can also change spells gained from our Psionic spells whenever we gain a sorcerer level by replacing one with a divination or enchantment spell from the sorcerer list. We will want to do this with some spells later, but I wouldn't change either of these. For other 2 spells known, we want Shield for a telekinetic shield to protect us, and Catapult to psionically yeet items at people who make us angry.
At 4th level, we take 2nd level of Sorcerer, getting Font of Magic, gaining 2 sorcery points. For now, we can use these to create additional spell slots, but we will later get more ways to use them. We also get another 1st level spell slot and another spell known. We want Silvery Barbs to manipulate reality in our favor. At 5th level, we'll take 3rd level of Sorcerer, getting Metamagic. Now we can spend our sorcery points to modify our spells. This will work even on spells we cast with our Warlock slots. Also, as a multi-class caster, we can cast any spell we know with any spell slot we have, and since both of our classes use Charisma, we have 2 pools of spell slots that we can use to cast any of our spells. We get 2 metamagic options at this level. We want Subtle Spell, which allows us to spend 1 sorcery point to cast a spell without verbal or somatic components. This is useful if silenced or we have our hands full, but is best for casting Charm Person or Friends without anyone noticing that we cast it, at least not until the spell ends. This will apply to other mind control effects we will get later on. We also want Heighten Spell, which lets us spend 3 sorcery points to give a creature disadvantage on the first save against the spell. This is great when we have spells that will win fights on a failed save, which we'll be going to have later on. Speaking of which, we get 1 more 1st and 2 2nd level spell slots and another spell known, and we can be of 2nd level. Also from our psychic spells, we get Calm Emotions and Detect Thoughts added to our spells known. We want Phantasmal Force. It creates an illusion in the subject's mind. You will need to read the full spell description, but basically the subject believes the illusion is true, acts as if it were true, and if someone happens to make them doubt the illusion, they will rationalize it for making sense. They can use an action to examine the illusion, making an investigation check against our save DC, but it doesn't say that they automatically do so. A clever enough illusion could mean they don't even try, but a lot of monsters are pretty bad at investigation anyway.
And at 6th level, we take 4th level Sorcerer, getting an ability boost that we'll use to cap our Charisma at 20. This is the only ability score we absolutely need, so we can start balancing out the rest of them later. We also get another 2nd level spell slot, another cantrip, and another spell known, and we can also swap out one of our psionic spells. I want to keep Detect Thoughts, but I don't really like Calm Emotions, so we'll swap it for Tashas Mind Whip, which deals psychic damage and denies the target certain actions. For a cantrip, we'll take Gust for a little more telekinetic action, and for our next spell, we'll take Hold Person to psionically restrain our opponents. And at 7th level, we'll take 5th level Sorcerer. There's an optional ability at this level called Magical Guidance. If it is used in your campaign, it allows you to spend a sorcery point to re-roll a failed ability check. This can be an excellent use of a sorcery point, especially when making an important persuasion or deception check. We also get 2 3rd level spell slots and another spell known. And from our psionic spells, we get Hunger of Hadar and Sending. Hunger Hadar is from the Warlock list and is another tentacle-flavored attack spell. And Sending, which allows us to send a short telepathic message to anyone, anywhere, even on other planes, and they can respond. I love this spell, but there is a small failure chance when sending to other planes. For our spell known, we want Enemies Abound. It causes targets to be unable to tell friend from foe and attack whoever's closest, and it chooses randomly if targets are equally close. If using Unearthed Arcana, we could instead take Psionic Blast from UA66. This is an evocation that creates a 30-foot cone that does 5d8 force damage to creatures that fail a dexterity save, and half to those that succeed. Those that fail are also pushed 20 feet and knocked prone. The damage is a little less than Fireball or Lightning Bolt, but comparable. The area of effect is a little worse than Fireball in most situations, but better than Lightning Bolt. And force damage is a great damage type. The pushing and knocking prone are also great effects to add to a damage spell.
At 8th level, we'll take 6th level of Sorcerer. From Aberrant Mind, we get Psionic Sorcery, allowing us to cast our Psionic spells by spending sorcery points equal to the spell's level instead of using a spell slot. This is a good deal, as spell slots can be traded for sorcery points equal to the level of the spell, but it costs much more sorcery points to create a spell slot of that level. Also, when doing this, the spell requires no verbal or somatic components and no material components unless they are consumed by the spell. This is better than using Subtle Spell in most cases and gives us the same effect. We also get Psionic Defense, making us resistant to psionic damage and giving us advantage on saves against being frightened or charmed. We also get another 3rd level spell slot and another spell known. If you took Psionic Blast last level, take Enemies Abound now, and if you took Enemies Abound already, we want Clairvoyance to give us the ability to scry on a particular location, either hearing or seeing whatever is there. If using Unearthed Arcana, Antagonize from UA85 is an enchantment that causes the target to make a wisdom save and, on a failure, take 4d4 psychic damage and use this reaction to make a melee attack on a creature of your choice within range. If no creatures are within range, it instead gets disadvantage on its next attack it makes. At 9th level, we'll take 7th level of Sorcerer, getting one 4th level spell slot and another spell known. For our Psionic spells, we get Evard's Black Tentacles and Summon Aberration. These are both excellent spells. The Tentacles are good battlefield control and deal good damage, and the Summon gives us an option of choosing one of 3 aberrations: the Slad, which is a tanky regenerating melee fighter, the Beholderkin, which is a flying ranged attacker, and the Star Spawn, which is a melee fighter that has an aura dealing psychic damage to anyone within 5 feet of it. For our spell known, we want Raulothim's Psychic Lance, which deals psychic damage and incapacitates the target for a turn. If using Unearthed Arcana, Ego Whip from UA66 lasts for a minute depending on the concentration, and the target makes an intelligence save or suffers disadvantage on attack rolls, ability checks, and saves, and can't cast spells for the duration. It can, however, make a save at the end of each of its turns to end the effect. At 10th level, we take 8th level of Sorcery, getting an ability booster feat, and we want the Gift of the Gem Dragon feat from Fitzbin's Treasury of Dragons. It allows us to add +1 to our intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, and we want to make our 11 intelligence into a 12. No point in having odd numbers. Also, we get Telekinetic Reprisal. When we take damage from a creature within 10 feet of us, we can use our reaction to force them to make a strength save or take 2d8 force damage and be pushed 10 feet away from us. If they save, they take half damage and aren't pushed. We also get another 4th level spell slot and another spell known. We want Charm Monster, allowing us to manipulate all of these non-persons that we've been waiting to charm.
At 11th level, we take 9th level Sorcerer. We get another 4th level spell slot and a 5th level spell slot and another spell known. From Psionic spells, we get Rary's Telepathic Bond and Telekinesis. The bond is partially redundant with our Great Old One telepathy, but does have unlimited range. Telekinesis is pretty good in theory, but often not what we want to be casting. For our spell known, we want Synaptic Static, which creates a 20-foot radius of psychic damage, intelligence save for half, and those that fail subtract a d6 from attacks, checks, and concentration checks for a minute. At 12th level, we take 10th level Sorcerer, getting another Metamagic, and we want Twin Spell, letting us spend sorcery points equal to the spell level to make a single target spell within range, other than self, target 2 things instead. A lot of our spells are single targets, so this will give us a lot of extra power. We also get another cantrip, another 5th level spell slot, and another spell known. We can also retrain one of our psionic spells, and we are going to trade Rary's Telepathic Bond for Dominate Person. This is not only a better spell for us, it is a great one to use with Psionic Sorcery or Subtle Spell, in order to take control of an NPC without its companions noticing. For our cantrip, we want Mold Earth for more telekinetic shenanigans, and for our spell known, we want Hold Monster, getting all the goodness of Hold Person on a much wider variety of enemies. And at 13th level, we take 11th level Sorcerer, getting a 6th level spell slot and another spell known. For our spell, we want Mental Prison, which is like Phantasmal Force, only much more powerful. The target takes 5d10 psychic damage, and if it fails an intelligence save, is trapped in a prison that only it can see, that is horrible as you can imagine. We should go with some eldritch horror from the far realms filled with tentacles and gibbering mouths. The target can't see anything outside of the prison, and if something moves it out of the prison, or if it attacks through or reaches through the prison, it takes another 10d10 psychic damage and the spell ends. This is a great choice for Heightened Spell or Twin Spell. And at 14th level, we take 12th level Sorcerer, getting an ability booster feat, and we need Constitution, so let's boost it to 14. Sadly, we get nothing else at this level.
At 15th level, we'll take 13th level of Sorcerer. All we get is a 7th level spell slot and another spell known, and either teleport or plane shift, depending on your party needs, are the best choice. However, if someone in your party, like a wizard, has magical transportation covered, both Power Word Pain and Reverse Gravity are strong spells that can fit into your psychic power theme. At 16th level, we'll take 14th level of Sorcerer. From Aberrant Mind, we get Revelation in Flesh, which fully releases our aberrant nature. We can spend 1 or more sorcery points to transform our body for 10 minutes. For each point spent gives us a different ability that lasts for the duration. The abilities are, first, you can see any invisible creature within 60 feet. Our eyes also turn black, if they aren't already, or grow into eye stalks. Second, gain a fly speed equal to our walking speed and can hover. Our skin also glistens with mucus or glows with otherworldly light. Third, we gain a swimming speed equal to twice our walking speed and can breathe underwater. We also grow gills, webbed fingers, and cilia that grow out even through our clothes. Fourth, our body and gear become squishy and slimy and can squeeze through openings as small as 1 inch and can spin 5 feet of movement to escape grapples and non-magical restraints. At 17th level, we take 15th level of Sorcerer, getting 8th level spell slot and another spell known, and we want Dominate Monster, another candidate for Heightened Spell that can just win encounters. Beware of legendary resistances, though. If fighting a creature with those, see if it has a powerful minion you can dominate instead. At 18th level, we'll take 16th level of Sorcerer, getting another ability boost. While we need more Constitution, we also need hit points. If you are having trouble with concentration saves or Constitution checks, in general, raise our Constitution to 16. But we do have Proficiency with con saves and Eldritch Mind, so if we feel comfortable with our Constitution, instead take the Tough feat, which gives twice as many extra hit points. At 19th level, we take 17th level of Sorcerer, getting a 9th level spell slot and another spell known. And we want Psychic Scream. We can pick up to 10 creatures within 90 feet, and they make an intelligence save or take 14d6 psychic damage and be stunned. On a save, it takes half as much damage and it isn't stunned. Stunned creatures get a save at the end of each of its turns to become unstunned. For extra cool points, if the creature is killed by this spell, just make its head explode.
And at 20th level, we take 18th level Sorcerer, getting our final ability from Aberrant Mind, which is Warping Implosion. We use our action to teleport 120 feet, and every creature within 30 feet of our original location makes a strength save. And if they fail, they take 3d10 force damage and are pulled straight towards our former space, ending up as close to it as possible. Those that save take half damage and aren't pulled. We can use this once per long rest, but can also spend 5 sorcery points to use it an additional time. This is a great ability and the only thing we get from 18th level Sorcerer. If you don't care about this ability, you could take 3rd level Warlock to get Pact of the Tome, or even a level Rogue to get expertise in Persuasion and Insight. And this is a really powerful caster. It has battlefield control, utility casting, a lot of high damage spells that have additional effects, and deal either force or psychic damage. Eldritch Blast do excellent damage when we don't want to cast a spell. And it has a number of save or lose spells that can end encounters instantly, or at least take out a few of the more powerful enemies. It's also great at controlling social situations, both with skills and magic. On the downside, it's fragile and not well armored, so needs protection from its allies to be at its best. The character from the Psyops build that we mentioned earlier would make a good ally for this one, if they could get past their differences. We'll put the link to that video in the corner.
We hope you enjoyed this video, and we hope we lived up to Donald Carter's expectations. As always, leave any questions, comments, or build ideas in the comment section below. We love hearing from you, and join us next time when we do a build for Fernair Renunamentra. They want a Blade Singer Wizard and a Profane Soul Blood Hunter, so look forward to that. And until next time, Cheers.